Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports, and we are back with yet another video. And of course, today we're going to be talking about another team. It is none other than Rajasthan Royals, the last year's finalist, who had a phenomenal one in the last season, came to the final, of course, led by Josh Butler's exploits up top. It was a phenomenal season for Rajasthan Royals. A lot of Rajasthan Royals fans did think this was the season for them to claim that IPL trophy once again after that opening season where they went on to win that title. It's almost been now 15 long years even for Rajasthan Royals after winning their maiden ever title with Shane Warne. They've had a long drought, and last season they saw the spark in that team, which went on to do exemplarily well. Now, what did they do right last time around? It was a team which had so many players who they assembled. It was, one can say, a great auction strategy to assemble so many of these players who they really got. They retained some of the main players. They got likes of Yuzvendra Chahal on board. They got likes of Ashwin on board. They had Prasidh Krishna, Trent Bolt. You can say a balling core which really they assembled was one of the primary reasons why they went on to do well as well. Now, of course, you had George Butler, who had a phenomenal season, scoring 800 plus runs, but it was just not that. It was about other batters coming into play at different situations as well. Now, if you have to look at the win-loss ratio of Rajasthan Royals, it's very interesting. Let's look at last year, how they went about it. Now, if you look at the last year, they went on to win 10 games in total, including the qualifier 2, in which they went on to defeat RCB. Total, they had 9 wins at the end of the group stage, where they went on to have 3 wins batting first, of course, and of course 6 wins batting second. But after having that start of batting second in the qualifier number 2, they have a total of 7 wins batting second, of course, in that stat. So what has been their stronger forte? If you understand, they batted first on very few occasions, and they bowled second on many of these occasions as well. So what is the main thing, right? When you're batting first, of course, they did not have a lot of hiccups. More often than not, in the 4 games, they went on to win 3 of them. Is that a telling story? Definitely it is, because if you look at their bowling, the bowling really backed them to defend totals or more often than not. Now, if you talk about one of the games against RCB once again in Pune, where they just managed to score 148, it was the bowling which stepped up once again, likes of Trent Bolt and Prasidh Krishna. And of course, if you talk about Yuzvendra Chahal's impact through the middle overs, it was also a very telling story, because they had two bowlers to bowl 8 overs and spin a web around them. That was Ashwin and Chahal for them. Then, of course, they had other bowlers as well stepping in at different situations, and that was their biggest strength of the last season. They also found a gem in Kuldeep Sen last season, a tearaway fast bowler who could come in and bowl quick for them. So that's been their biggest strength. Let's look at the batting versus bowling stat to understand where they really had lot of strength. Now, if you look at the batting first stat, more often than not, they back themselves to post a total in excessive of close to 170 or close to 180 as well, more often than not. And there, when you have a player scoring 400s by himself, and that's something which you can expect from a team to do as well. Now, while bowling first, they did concede close to 170, but at the same time, you can understand while batting second, they did come to chase that down more often than not. Now, one particular thing in all this stat is that, especially while bowling second, they went on to pick up a lot of wickets. That's why you did see they went on to win 7 games batting second, and they also went on to pick up close to 6 wickets in every of the occasion they went on to bowl second. Even while bowling first, they went on to pick up close to 6 wickets, but the biggest strength of them has been picking up wickets crucially. Now, when we talk about picking up wickets, remember the surfaces they played on. They played on surfaces like Mumbai, Pune, and different kind of surfaces in Mumbai, especially in Wankhede. You saw Trent Bolt being such a useful player over there, especially Trent Bolt coming in and breaking the bat off the different batting lineups, especially with the swing bowling up front, and also Prasidh Krishna helping him on the other end. Now, one of the biggest weaknesses also the Rajasthan Royals had in the last season was finding that sixth bowling option. Now, Rajasthan Royals always went into that playing 11 with 5 proper bowlers, including Ravichandran Ashwin batting at 7 more often than not. They really wanted that sixth bowling option. That's something which they really did struggle throughout the last season. Now, there were a lot of critics on Riyan Parag as well. Now, when you talk about Riyan Parag is a phenomenal player. There is no two doubts about it. Riyan Parag's effect throughout the last season was not seen. But after the last season, if you talk about this domestic season for Riyan Parag has been phenomenal. Now that's something which you need to talk about as well, because Riyan Parag's domestic season for the Assam team, which he played this season, it was a telling story. He went on to score a lot of runs in the red ball format and also in the T20 and the white ball format as well. He came into bat in tough situations and he did score for the Assam team. Now that's going to be very important for them to have Riyan Parag in form, to have Riyan Parag scoring a lot of runs, because they have always backed Riyan Parag. There's always been a lot of questions asked to the Rajasthan Royals management. Why are you backing Riyan Parag? But they've always seen something about Riyan Parag which they've always backed, and that's one of the reasons why even this season he's going to play a very important role. Unlike the last seasons, this season Riyan Parag's role with the bat and ball even increases, because there's an impact player rule as well. If he does not do well, maybe they might have to look at some other players as well. So that is where maybe a player like Riyan Parag might be even used as an impact player at times, because that's going to be very interesting to see how they operate the impact player role. Remember last season, Rajasthan Royals were one of the most tactically astute teams. Remember how Ravichandran Ashwin came to bat at number 3 and he retired himself out for Shimran Hetmyer to come and bat. So these are the kind of things they have done throughout the last season. They also use Ravichandran Ashwin as a power play basher. They also use Ravichandran Ashwin as a player to shield a matchup of Sanju Samson as well. So that's very interesting. That's how Rajasthan Royals operated throughout the last season in terms of using their matchups, in terms of using Ravichandran Ashwin. He was a floater and you got the best returns out of Ravichandran Ashwin, the batter, the last season. You can say only franchise in the history of IPL to use Ravichandran Ashwin to optimum utilization as a batter is Rajasthan Royals, because you did get best of returns and he picked up 13 wickets with the ball as well. Maybe you can say a fine season from Ravichandran Ashwin, which also led to him getting that call up for the Indian national team for the World Cup as well. So that's one effect which you can see from Kumar Sangakkara, a very highly thinking think tank over there with like so Kumar Sangakkara being at the helm, and also Sanju Samson, the captain, was phenomenal last season as well. Of course, we talk about Sanju Samson, the batter, but as a captain, you saw Sanju Samson operating with his resources really well. There were occasions where they were put under pressure, but he really knew how to get out of that situation, how to jailbreak out of the situation, how to use the right resources. Now, when you talk about using someone like an Obaid McCoy, he used Obaid McCoy to complete effect as well last season, where he identified Obaid McCoy's biggest strength as maybe bowling at the death overs. He really told him that maybe this is where you have to bowl, find yourself to be bowling in tough situations. Obaid McCoy really gave them good returns as well. Now that is something which you really want to see from a captain, a young Indian captain, captaining in his second ever season, and he really came out well, leading them to a final after 2008 as well. Now that is a big positive for Rajasthan Royals, having a young captain and a young captain who can think pretty well alongside a great coach as well. Now let's look at the best batters from the last season, because that's a very important stat. Because when you talk about Sanju Samson, you talk about Josh Butler. Of course, let's not look at the last stat over there, because that's Josh Butler with 863 runs. That's a lot of runs. Not a lot of players get to score that every season. It's one season where you really set a mark for yourself. Now let's talk about some of the batters, right? Yashasvi Jaiswal, impressive player from the last season. Scored close to 258 runs. A player who a lot of teams had an eye on. Maybe he's called as the next big thing in the Indian domestic circuit as well. Now, what is it about Yashasvi Jaiswal this season as well? Yashasvi Jaiswal this season as well scored a lot of runs. If you have to talk about Yashasvi Jaiswal, he's coming off a very recent Syed Mustaq Ali Trophy. He's coming off. He scored a lot of runs there, and at the same time, you can also talk about Yashasvi Jaiswal to be pairing up with someone like Josh Butler this season and expect them to both light the stage on fire. Because when we talk about Yashasvi Jaiswal, he's got a lot of flair as a batter. He's coming out with a lot of reputation where he can take on a lot of batting lineups as well, a lot of bowling lineups as well. Now, Shimran Hetmyer, he's a very interesting case study primarily because when we talk about Shimran Hetmyer, you can understand that he is used in a different way for this team. He's used as a finisher, you can say. Not a lot of teams have used him previously. Delhi Capitals did try to use him. That's where teams did identify. Maybe this is the way we can possibly use someone like a Yashasvi Jaiswal, and that's where you can say Yashasvi That's where maybe Hetmeyer will be used. by even Rajasthan Royals as a finisher, like you saw the last season, coming in at number 6, number 5, finish games on a consistent basis. And if you look at the last 1 year, his name has not really been there. A lot of issues did come around with Shimran Hetmar regarding fitness. Also, one of the funniest incidents did happen when he missed that flight to the World Cup, and where he was not allowed to join the team later on as well. Now, the third player on the list is Dave Dutt Patikal. A lot of people across the world were baffled by the way in which they use Devdutt Padikkal. Devdutt Padikkal, we all know, was used by Royal Challengers Bangalore and even by Karnataka team as an opener. And all of a sudden, in the IPL, he was told to bat in the middle order. Hence you see that strike rate. Maybe you might see Devdutt Padikkal maybe open this season, maybe not as well. You can of course say Devdutt Padikkal is not the best suited to bat at number 4 for any of the T20 franchises. Maybe does not have the game there. He does not have a power game to come in and accelerate from the game, from the word go. He takes a lot of time as well to really get going. Hence, you see that striker, though he scored 376 runs with the bat, but that's not good enough when you're batting at 122 strike rate. It can cause negative impact for your team when you're batting at that strike rate, especially if you're a number 4 batter. Sanju Samson once again had a very decent season. Again, went under the radar, one can say so, because you expect a lot of Sanju Samson. He bats in a certain way with a high strike rate, 146, scored 458 runs, and that is something a decent batter will have at batting a number 3 in any of the IPL franchise. And he had a very impactful season as well. He came in some of the occasions, he did score some quick 50s, helping the team to cross over the line. And of course, Josh Butler, 400s he scored there, and 860 runs with the bat, close to 150 strike rate. He will really be hoping that he can replicate almost something very similar to what he had last time around. Of course, last time on the surfaces were different. This time they'll be playing most of the games in Jaipur, in Savai Mansingh Stadium, a stadium which they'll be hoping they form a fortress. If you remember, the 2013 season, they were one of the very few teams to get 7 out of 7 games to win in Jaipur, and Jaipur was always a fortress for the Rajasthan Royals, and they'll be hoping they can maintain that. And with the kind of spin duo they have in Chahal and in Ashwin, and also a bowler like Trent Bolt, they'll be really, really hoping that they can maintain that fortress which they're already stamped upon. Let's look at the best bowlers from the last season. A very interesting stat, because one of the primary reasons why they also went on to win most of the games and went on to play the final, of course. Now, another stat, having a purple cap and also having orange cap from the same team. That was Rajasthan Royals' effect. Chahal picking up most of the wickets, being the purple cap holder, and orange cap was with Josh Butler, of course. Now, let's talk about Obed McCoy. As I did mention earlier on as well, Obed McCoy's run rate is something which we shouldn't really look into, because he did bowl the tough overs for Rajasthan Royals. He did come into ball during the death overs where you can go for a lot of runs, but he did pick up to manage 11 wickets there. That's a telling stat for a bowler, and that's going to be a big, big positive for the Rajasthan Royals team as well. Maybe use him this season differently, maybe as an impact sub, which we will talk about when we talk about the predicted 11, how they can possibly use the impact player for this season. Ravichandran Ashwin, for a lot of reasons, was probably one of the best players of the last season, especially picking up wickets consistently and also partnering with Yuzvendra Chahal. Bolt, of course, as something which you get from Bolt, picking up wickets up front with the new ball, and Prasidh Krishna as well. Prasidh Krishna's miss is going to be the toughest challenge for Rajasthan Royals this season. He's ruled out of the IPL, and how are they going to manage without Prasidh Krishna? Because not having someone of Prasidh Krishna's quality is very tough, because he's an Indian pacer they invested highly upon as well. They spent close to 10 crore on Prasidh Krishna, the bowler, and you did get the returns from him. But now talking about which a season where he's not going to be available, who is their next best alternative? Can it be Kuldeep Sen who can come in and step up? These are tough questions for us and Royals to answer. And of course, for Chahal as well, he's been having a rough time with the Indian team. He's not been consistent. He's been out of form, one can say so, in the wide ball format as well. Not getting the consistent opportunities. Now, can Yuzvendra Chahal replicate something which he did last season? These are two major questions for them. Who is going to really replace Prasidh Krishna, and can Yuzvendra Chahal replicate what he did last season? If these two things can happen in a decent way, then Rajasthan Royals can certainly have a very good season. Though they have enough artillery to really do that, so, but can they really step up in tough situations? Now let's look at the predicted playing 11, because it's very important to look into this predicted playing 11 and understand how they can possibly use the impact sub for this season. Now when we talk about the predicted playing 11, You can understand it's almost very similar to last season, except you have something like a Kuldeep Sen coming in. Is that the way they would like to operate? Of course, they have Jason Holder they have gotten from the auction, and they'll be really hoping that he can do a decent job. Last time around, they had James Neesham, but this time around, they have someone like a Joe Root as well. Now, and they've also got Adam Zampa, they've got Obed Nekoy, they've got a lot of good overseas players sitting on the bench. So, I have an interesting theory how Rajasthan Royals can possibly use their impact substitute. Now, Rajasthan Royals can maybe go in with three overseas picks and maybe use an impact sub depending on situation as an overseas impact sub as well. Because if you look in some of the occasion, they can maybe bring in a Joe Root there if they're having a tough time to start off while batting second, especially. They can maybe bring in Joe Root as an impact sub if need be. Or on occasions where they really want a swing bowler up front, they can maybe try someone like a Jason Holder. Maybe he can be part as an impact sub. And maybe at number 7, you would want someone like an Akash Vishist to maybe start. Akash Vishist has been a phenomenal player in the domestic setup, batting in that kind of a role, batting at number 7. He's an experienced candidate as well. Maybe Akash Vishist can be that number 7 player to start off with. Maybe tell Akash Vishist, maybe you will be substituted on more often than not. And a team which can possibly do that is also the Rajasthan Royals, because they do things out of the box. Maybe Akash Vashist can be that player who they'll substitute off in every game and bring that impact sub as well. Maybe bring in someone like an Adam Zampa on surface which turns a lot. When they go to places like Chepauk, they can use a player like Adam Zampa on the road on surface which will aid spin. Maybe Adam Zampa, Yuzwin Chel, Ashwin will be a tough bowling attack to counter it. Remember, Adam Zampa recently picked up 4 wickets in Chepauk. So that's something which they can use as an impact player as well. Now, another player they can use as impact player, they can bring in Obed McCoy in tough situation, especially in the second innings where near to the 14th over, they need someone to bowl in their day. They can bring in Obed McCoy as an impact sub instead of Akash Vashist as well. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they use the impact sub. As it's a predicted playing 11, this could be an ideal playing 11 for them on more occasions than not. But maybe use that impact sub to their leverage. Go in with 3 overseas players and use that third one with their leverage, because they have someone like Donovan Ferreira who had a phenomenal SA20 as well. A player who is a very hard hitter of the ball. He can also ball a little bit. So that's another useful resource they can use. Maybe when they want to finish things off in a better way, while they're chasing a total, where they feel the Indian contingent of Riyan Parag or maybe Akash Vashist cannot do a job, maybe impact in maybe substitute in someone like a Donovan Ferreira to do that job as well. So that's going to be very interesting. A team who can maybe use the impacts up to their complete leverage could be Rajasthan Royals as well. So watch out for the impact substitute rule with Rajasthan Royals, because this season is all about how the 12th person is used to the best of utility. As we already did mention, teams can name their playing 11 after the toss, depending on whether they win the toss. They can carry 2 team sheets, whether they want to bat first or ball first, and according to that, they can also include 4 substitute players to that list as well. A very interesting season. That's something which we cannot predict at the start of the season who they might use. A lot of these impact substitute are going to be situation based. A lot of these impact subs are going to be depending on where and what kind of situation they're going to be put up on, depending on the overs. So that's where we might not be able to predict this earlier on. Maybe at the start of the season, we can see how they operate. If there's a certain pattern which we can find out, maybe then we can bring you out how these impact players are used depending on the pattern of which the teams have used them as well. So that's it from the Rajasthan Royals. Do let us know in the comments what is your ideal playing 11 and how do you see this team operating in different situations as well, and who is your impact sub you're choosing for this playing 11. If you have really enjoyed watching this video, do subscribe to our channel and also share this video with your friends and family so we can bring out all these videos in the coming days. And if you haven't already checked out our previous teams previews, do check that out as well. Thank you and have a good time.